Hi, friends. During this time of quarantine, I've thought a great deal about suffering and enduring hardship. As the outreach director at Hope, I've had opportunities to spend time with believers from other parts of the world. And one thing that I've noticed is that oftentimes believers in other countries have a better understanding, either experientially or intellectually, of hardship and its place in the Christian life. I remember a story from a pastor in another country. He was on a local college campus one day connecting with people and passing out pamphlets, when a young man walked up to him. He saw what was in the pastor's hand, and without saying anything, he spit in his face, and then he stepped a few feet away to wait for the bus. The pastor didn't respond, but he wiped his face and he stayed where he had already been standing. The uncomfortable wait became excruciating when the next bus to arrive was so full there wasn't enough space for the young man to board. After some time had passed, he went back to the pastor and he asked why he had stayed, why he wasn't afraid of him. Certainly, this young man had been aggressive, but the pastor understood that the young man was actually the vulnerable one. The pastor didn't run from the suffering or even the threat of more severe suffering. Rather, he stayed for the sake of the young man. In the end, they had a long conversation in which the pastor was able to explain why he had stayed, and they left each other on peaceful terms. We're living in a moment of hardship. Perhaps it isn't suffering that is tied to our witness for the gospel, like in the story, but we are being called upon with the rest of the country to endure an incredibly difficult season. No matter how many DIY videos we watch, no matter how many testimonies of people who have taken up a million new hobbies, this quarantine isn't a choice. It's not creative isolation. It's not even isolation for the sake of wellness. This is hard. I can attest to that. For some people, the hardship takes the shape of minor frustrations or irritations. For others, it's much more serious, encompassing financial strain, loneliness and depression, family fights, and drowning under an ever-growing to-do list. The young man in the story above asked the right question: why do we stay? Why do we endure it? Everywhere we look, we see signs of people who desperately want to bail. Perhaps we feel that we can't handle anymore. More often than not, though, we feel that we have a right not to go through the difficulty, not to have to suffer. There's a reason the U.S. church doesn't have a finely tuned understanding of enduring hardship, as part of the American ethos is to ignore hardship and escape it at all costs. We excuse away these attitudes by insisting that we have the right, as Christians, to not have to stop being who we are. But perhaps we don't fully understand, as Christians, who we're actually supposed to be. In the Christian life, we endure times like these. We stay because this is the very seed of the gospel, that one would suffer for the sake of all others. And now we are privileged to bear witness to that one, Jesus, by faithfully enduring this difficult time for the sake of the vulnerable around us. 1 Peter 1:6-7 says this: "In this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while you may have had to suffer grief in all kinds of trials. These have come so that your faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may be proved genuine and may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed." Can you imagine Christ being revealed even before his return? Revealed in the lives, words, and actions of his people who willingly accept moments of hardship, knowing that when we come out of it, Christ will be made manifest more and more, both in our own life, by the refining of our faith, and in the world around us, to the glory of God the Father.